If you're a parent of a teenager, you know the feeling, right? The slam doors, the one-word answers, that sense that the child you knew is just disappearing behind some invisible wall. It's painful, and honestly, it's really confusing. But what if the key to rebuilding that bridge isn't about trying to fix your teen, but about understanding what's really happening beneath the surface? So let's dive into that together. You know, what looks like a perfectly happy family on the outside can often be hiding this silent crisis inside. There's just so much pressure these days. Exams, thinking about careers, just the whole thing of growing up. It creates this tension that can make home feel more like a battleground than a safe haven. Suddenly, every conversation feels loaded, and the silence, well, that can be deafening. And for you, as the parent, it can feel like you're just on the outside looking in. You try to connect, you try to help, but it feels like you're just hitting that wall over and over again. It can make you feel helpless, maybe even rejected, and you just don't know how to break through. Okay, so the very first thing you need to know is that you are not alone in this, not even close. This is a shared experience for so many families, a kind of silent crisis happening in homes just about everywhere. Does any of this sound familiar? You know, it often kicks off with performance anxiety, that constant worry about grades and tests. Then that pressure leads to emotional withdrawal. They stop sharing. And then it seems like any attempt you make to talk just escalates into anger and defiance. And underneath all of that, you as a parent are left with this heavy cloak of guilt and fear, wondering if you're somehow failing. The thing is, these aren't separate issues. They're all just symptoms of the same breakdown in connection. So, naturally, we try to fix it. We reach for the tools we know, maybe the same methods our parents used with us. But what if those very tools are actually making the problem worse? And listen, this isn't about you being a bad parent. It's about using an outdated toolkit for a really modern problem. We see our child struggling, right? So our first instinct is to jump in with solutions, to give them advice. But to a teenager who is already completely overwhelmed with emotion, logical advice doesn't feel like support. It feels like more pressure. It feels like just another standard they aren't meeting. So when the advice doesn't work, we get frustrated. And that can lead to threats or punishments. We think, okay, maybe a little fear will motivate them. But what that actually does is just activate their stress response. It might change their behavior for a minute, sure. But in the long run, it just eats away at the very trust you need to rebuild that connection. Oh, this one is so common. Why can't you be more like your cousin? We think we're inspiring them, but what it actually does is completely destroy their self-worth. It sends this devastating message, you, exactly as you are not good enough. And that just creates shame, not motivation. And here is the absolute game changer. When these methods backfire, it's so easy for us to see it as defiance or disrespect. But the real root cause isn't their attitude, it's their biology. The real reason these old tools fail is literally hardwired into the adolescent brain, especially when it's under stress. This breaks it down perfectly. Just think of the teen's emotional brain, the amygdala, as this super sensitive fire alarm. When it senses any kind of pressure, it just goes off, loud and fast. At the exact same time, the logical part of their brain, the prefrontal cortex, we can call it the CEO, is still under construction. So when that alarm is blaring, the CEO essentially goes offline. They literally cannot process your logical advice because their brain has switched into pure survival mode, fight, flight, or freeze. And this biological reality, it sets the stage for the real culprit behind this whole disconnect. A hidden, self-perpetuating cycle of anxiety that gets passed back and forth between you and your child. It's this emotional feedback loop where each person's reaction just triggers and amplifies the others. It's a vicious cycle. So here's how this cycle actually plays out. It starts with you, the parent, feeling anxious about their exams, their future, whatever it is. And even if you don't say a single word, your child feels that energy. To them, it feels like pressure, so they pull away or they push back just to protect themselves. And then you see that withdrawal, not as them trying to protect themselves, but as disrespect. That makes you feel rejected and even more anxious, and boom, the cycle starts all over again. And this gets to the absolute heart of it. The fights about homework or screen time, that's just the surface stuff. The real conflict is often about our own unhealed anxieties, our own past fears that we're unconsciously passing down to them. So if the old tools don't work and we're stuck in this crazy loop, how do we get out? Well, this is where a new toolkit comes in. One that works with the body, not just the mind. It's called energy psychology. This approach goes way beyond just talking about your feelings. See, energy psychology is based on this understanding that strong emotions aren't just in our heads. They create a very real physical stress response that can get kind of stuck in our nervous system. So these techniques work directly with the body to calm that response down and release all that stored up tension. One of the most powerful and honestly easy to learn tools from this field is called EFT, or tapping. It's a really simple technique where you just gently tap on specific acupressure points on your own body. And this physical act sends a calming signal directly to that fire alarm in your brain we talked about, the amygdala. By tapping on these points while you're focused on a stressful feeling, you are literally sending a signal to your brain and your body that you are safe. And this allows that intense emotional charge to just dissolve. It often brings this immediate, surprising sense of relief. And this isn't just some placebo effect. It has a measurable physiological effect. I mean, research has shown that a single hour of EFT tapping can reduce cortisol, which is the main stress hormone, by an incredible 24%. It physically calms your entire nervous system down. And this brings us to the most empowering part of this whole story. The path to reconnecting with your child doesn't start with trying to change them. It starts with you. I want you to think of yourself as the emotional thermostat for your home. When you learn how to regulate your own anxiety and stress, you create an environment of emotional safety. And it's in that safety that your child's nervous system can finally relax. Because here's what happens. Your child unconsciously mirrors your emotional state. So your calm literally creates a safe space for them. Their nervous system can relax, which means they no longer have to be in that fight or flight mode. And maybe most importantly, they learn from your example how to manage their own big emotions. You become their guide, not through your words, but through your own calm, regulated presence. And please hear this. This is not about blaming yourself for the disconnect. Not at all. It's about realizing that you hold the power to change the entire dynamic. That is not a burden. That's an incredible opportunity. It's a huge shift in perspective, isn't it? Instead of asking, how can I fix my child? We start to ask, how can I heal myself for the sake of my child? What if the greatest gift you can possibly give your teen is your own inner peace?